All right, welcome everyone to our very first Menstrual Advocacy 101. And I think we're about to get started. We're 5 minutes in, so if more people join, we can just let them in. So first of all, thank you all very, very much for coming to this event. It is so wonderful to see that there are people across the state interested in advancing menstrual advocacy at their college campus. And hopefully today we can talk about how that has been done at other campuses and possibly how you can take this information to your own campus. Hopefully it'll be wonderful. So I think I'm going to start off with introductions. We are hoping this will be kind of a roundtable discussion. So if you're willing and want to unmute and talk, put on your camera, we kind of want this just to be a discussion, but if you don't want to, that's totally and completely fine. You can just listen in and absorb all the information as well. So that being said, let's go around and do some introductions. I'll start, and then Annika, and then the next person that I see on my screen is Madison Shelnut. So I'll go first. My name's Gabby Wiggle. I am a student at Georgia Southern University. I'm a senior, and I major in public health with a minor in chemistry. I am pre-med. Yeah, I think that's all we need to know about me for now. What about you, Annika?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Annika. I am a Georgia Stomp board member, and I mainly work on projects relating to youth, college students, high school students, and organizing towards menstrual justice and advocacy. One of the events we did a couple of months ago was like a youth action hour where we did a lot of phone banking and email banking related to menstrual advocacy. And so that's like one of the areas I'm really passionate about. And yeah, I'm a freshman at Yale and possibly interested in studying English. And I'm really excited to be here with everyone.
Hi, I'm Madison. I am a Georgia Stomp board member, and I'm also a graduate student at the University of Georgia, earning my master's in social work. During my undergrad, I was also at UGA, and I was the co-president of Period Project at UGA, and I'm now working with the Project Red team.
Anyone want to go next?
Hi, my name is Joy Aloide. I am currently a graduate student at Georgia Southern studying applied public health. I did my undergraduate career at Georgia Southern also. I majored in biology and I minored in childhood and family development on the pre-medicine track too. And I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Joy.
Hi, I can go next. I'm Suditha, you, she, her pronouns. I am an alum of the University of Georgia as of May of this past year. And I guess I'm here on behalf of Period Project at UGA, which Madison mentioned I'm one of the founders of, and then as well as Project Red at UGA. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. Who next? Any volunteers? All right, well, I think then we're just going to continue on. Oh, hi, Dolly. Oh, that's a shame. Microphone issues. Oh, fantastic. All right, well, it is lovely to see you all here, and hopefully this will be a fun session. So what we plan on doing is first quickly just going into a presentation on period poverty, which is why we do menstrual advocacy, just explaining what it is, how it affects students specifically, and then launch into a roundtable discussion where we can talk about our differing experiences trying to do menstrual advocacy at college campuses and how different that is and how similar it is sometimes, and maybe we can work out some solutions that we can take back to our own campuses. Okay, so let's look at actually what is period poverty. So the definition as it is on our Georgia Stomp website is that it is the limited or inadequate access to menstrual products, menstrual health education as a result of financial constraints or negative socio-cultural stigmas associated with menstruation. So I tell people that it's very comparable to food insecurity, and quite simply put, you don't have the access to very necessary products that you need to live a normal life, so to speak. And as a definition also states very clearly, it's not always just due to the fact you don't have funding, it's also information. Information is wealth in a way. So without knowledge of all these resources, you also don't have the access to them as well. An important statistic for us to know as college students is that 1 in 10 college students experience period poverty. That was found in a study done in 2021, and we have the reference for that at the end of this presentation, which is a really great study to read if you're interested in learning more about how period poverty affects students at college specifically. And that's actually our next topic, so let's jump right back into that.
So one of the main problems, with using period products for like an extended amount of time because of lack of access to products is that it has really negative health implications physically. Using like tampons or pads for like an extended period of time, you could be exposed to something called toxic shock syndrome, which, can damage like your organs, and it's like really bad. And a lot of people, don't have education about like issues like toxic shock syndrome or other reproductive like health and period related issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome, or other ways that, like having a lack of access to products or a lack of access to knowledge about like menstrual health care, which is also another aspect of the kind of organizing that I think it's like really important for us to do in high schools and colleges, is that, there are a lot of like side effects, and there are a lot of other issues that can come into play when we don't, have access to these resources. And yeah, a lot of students definitely will like resort to things like, like toilet paper or like cloth or like socks or these different like ways of replacing period products because they don't have access to them. And obviously these have very dangerous implications, which is something that makes it really important for us to be able to provide these products.
A big thing about period poverty is that the whole idea of periods are just very much stigmatized. So no matter what you're talking about regarding a period, it is an unspoken topic that we don't talk about at all. It's taboo. And that in a way provides very much a cage for people who are struggling with something, like you're struggling with getting products they need to go to work or go to school, and they can't express that stress that they're feeling because it's also linked with embarrassment. To just say that you don't have access to these products or asking anyone for these products. It's always done in such like a hush hush way. And so it's very unfortunate that the taboo has such an influence on people's mental health as well. And now the research study that I was mentioning earlier from a slide actually was specifically about mental health correlations with period poverty at college. And so it did find that people who reported experiencing period poverty over the last year had a direct relationship with increased rates of depression. Another topic that's not often talked about is that transgender students suffer from a lot of mental harm regarding purchasing and access to these products too, because they might be afraid of being harassed, like going to the store and purchasing these products, and people might be harassing them for that, or they're afraid of outing themselves to their peers by using these products. So it's very much a topic that affects us in so many different ways that we don't really generally think about. And it's very unfortunate that it has this effect. And sad thing is we don't talk about it because it's stigmatized.
I think another major issue that we see is when, people don't have access to these products and they know that they're not going to be able to have access to them at school, at university, then a lot of them choose not to show up and not to attend classes. And this is like because like they don't have like the access to be able to go throughout these normal like stages of life because they don't have these products. And so a lot of valuable class time is missed, and that has, direct harm on education and academics, and missing out on a lot of professional development opportunities. So if any of you have like ever experienced that, like I know I did, like when I was taking like the SAT and then I didn't have access to products, and I remember like it was like really unexpected, and like the stress and like the anxiety of like needing something that like was so like essential and not being able to have it in that space, while I know that this is some really important test that's going to like affect me. And like students go through things like that very often, like within like the school setting. And so it is really important to have those to also ensure that people are having access to their education.
All right, so social justice and diversity, equity, and inclusion, it seems just very morally wrong that students have to decide between purchasing food or purchasing period products in a month. College students oftentimes do not have a reliable finance backing, so they are very limited in their funds. And a couple of dollars make a real difference for students, whether they are able to purchase food or these products. And it really just seems terrible that people have to make a choice like that. I mean, period products are complete necessities, and having to make that choice just doesn't seem good at all. Period probably also disproportionately affects different groups in the country. So the same study found that it disproportionately affects even among race categories. So with Latina women reporting the highest occurrence of period poverty, and then Black women, and then white women. So it disproportionately affects special groups in the country as well. Also, depending on your background, academic background, for example, so 1 in 5 first-generation college students reported experiencing period poverty, which is 20%, which is a pretty high amount. So period poverty has its way of affecting different people from different backgrounds in different ways. So it is very multifaceted indeed. And I think that is it. So then we just have a reference. So this is just one of incredibly wonderful resources that there are about period poverty. One of the interesting things about period poverty is that there is research of it across the world, but in different countries and different universities, we use different terminology for it. So it's oftentimes very difficult to put all this research together and like make like a big report of like how widespread it is, because we have different terminology for it across the world. But I do encourage you to continue looking up this information. All right, then we have a wonderful thing that we have been working on at Georgia STOMP. So there is so much information that we have learned from trying to advance period equity on campuses. And so we worked on making a website page that would actually help students in Georgia, mostly at Georgia campuses, to be able to do the same kind of period advocacy on their own campuses. And this provides with a lot of information on how to get that done, like where to start, and funding, which is a very big topic about this, and mentors, people to help you with that. So we have a lot of information on there, right? So that's me, for example, talking about, I think, where to start. We also have some success stories on there. So the reason I know so much about this topic is because I've been doing a lot of work on my own campus at Georgia Southern to advance period equity. We have students from Georgia State and UGA. So it is 100% possible to address these problems and make things better for students on your campus. And that's why we wanted to provide these resources. And then today, now with the roundtable discussion, have some more discussion about what we think are the hurdles to that, successes, challenges, and all those kinds of things, so we can learn from each other and hopefully make it better for Georgia students in terms of having access to products they need. And if you need any specific help with that, you can always contact Georgia STOMP and see if we can help you. If we can help you and find you someone to kind of like help you and mentor you through the process, because it can be pretty scary at the beginning if you're starting out. You're not really sure whom to talk to, where to turn to, and where to get your resources. So we are absolutely there to support you all the way. Anything else, Annika, that I'm missing?
Yeah, so we just want to emphasize like the wealth of like resources that you can have on like the entire process, like starting from the ground up of how to do advocacy and like organizing on your campus. We've like really tried to lay out the steps from talking with a lot of different groups and a lot of different people who have done advocacy on their campuses, and like the processes they use, the people that they reached out to, and how they were able to like successfully like get products in their restrooms or host educational events and things like that. And these success stories are also like a really, really great tool. And I just want to like thank like Gabby, who made a video for Georgia Southern, Kyla Browner, who made one for Georgia State, and Savita Vishwanathan, who made a video for UGA. Like, we really appreciate their time in like creating these videos and creating this resource for other students. And we really hope like if you know anyone who's like interested in college advocacy, that you'll be able to like share this as a resource with them, and also like, you know, like utilize like the steps like for your own like college, your own campus. Like, I know I'm going to apply some of this stuff, like even like here at Yale, where I don't see like products being like supported on campus. I think a lot of this is really gonna like be universal to these different college campuses. And obviously there's like other things as well. And yeah, so I think we can move into like the more of a roundtable discussion.
Yes, roundtable discussion. That is the exciting part of what we're doing tonight. We have a couple of questions that would be lovely for us to kind of just talk about. You know, we all have different campuses, and yet we're all, well, not necessarily all of us, but we're mostly looking at USG kind of institutions. And so looking at, I'm going to put the questions in the chat just so you can see them. Sorry, they look all kind of jumbled. I have them all nicely bulleted, sorry, on my document, but they didn't turn out so well in the Zoom chat. So starting us off with the first question, have you seen period poverty on your campus or known about it in any other way? Anyone willing to start this out?
For UGA, so we have our pilot program, Project Red, has been installing dispensers in gender neutral bathrooms across campus. And a part of that is we have been collecting data through surveys, both on the dispensers as well as just like spread throughout campus. And I would have to pull up the actual data, but it shows that there is a significant amount of period poverty on UJC campus that shows like the relevance of the dispensers. And so like we're using that data through the pilot program to show that to the administration eventually, to hopefully they'll take that into their own budget. But yeah, we've definitely gotten results from a lot of people who are saying they've experienced like a lack of access to products, like interruptions in their classes and different things like that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So we're also running surveys like that in our restrooms of our dispensers. And we've been kind of seeing the same thing, where a lot of them are saying that not necessarily period poverty, but that they don't have the products they need. And maybe it's just because they forgot or something, because that happens to all of us. Just having them accessible in the restrooms right there just also gives a major peace of mind for students, just knowing that there is a resource for them. The biggest thing that stood out to me for our survey was that, and I'm trying to see where it was, we specifically asked whether these products, whether we should continue offering these products in our university restrooms. And overwhelmingly, out of 160 responses, we had 156 saying that they should, like, strongly agree they should be continuing. So that's like a very overwhelming statistic that really points to the fact that this is something that students want, that students need, and really help them. Anyone else has seen period poverty on their campus, or maybe this is like a new topic or term that we're learning about tonight?
I have been at Georgia Southern since 2017. And one thing I've noticed compared from a rural community compared to a city one, because I moved in from Atlanta, is that since, especially in university systems of rural communities, you're heavily reliant on the community to support you. And so it's slightly off campus, but for example, in Statesboro's campus, depending on what day you go to the store, you may or may not find period products or the quality of period products that you prefer to use. Because quality of period products, it can venture off into like organic ones, which have shown to help with like period symptoms and everything. But I have noticed that in a way, because of lack of access, even in our community, I think that exacerbates period poverty on campus because you don't have access to it in your community.
Yeah, I mean, you get your products at a store and if the store runs out, then where do you go? Let's go on to another question. Have you seen ways that period poverty has been addressed on your campus?
I'll jump in quickly here to speak on UGA. I have one way that I don't know that this entirely relates to period poverty itself, but kind of the perpetuation of stigmas around periods. So I guess it does. Our campus bathrooms, they've changed it from what I've seen recently. They changed it just recently. They used to have those sensible bags, which were placed in each stall for you to have this supposedly non-odorless, discreet little bag for you to throw away a menstrual product after you have removed it. But then like dispensers in the restrooms that would ask for the quarters or however much would be completely empty. So there's one side of how it's, I guess, addressed on our campus. The other side is we do have an organization called Bulldog Basics. So a lot of our students do use their services for basic things like food and groceries and toiletries. And when we spoke with them in our initial research, they did say that they also provide menstrual products, but can only do so much because they are fully donation funded. I think if I'm remembering correctly, they are fully donation funded. But yeah.
I will say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add in for like UGA. I will say that there are some like buildings that have their own little like baskets with products in them. Like in the social work building, we have like the period products, but also like lotions and hand sanitizers and like little travel size shampoos and stuff. But there's I have seen other buildings with their own baskets, and I don't know who in that building is putting that in there, but there is like, even though not everyone has like become a part of Project Red, there are buildings who are like, we want people to have access in here, and so they're doing it like on their own initiatives, even if they can't afford to like buy their own dispensers or anything.
We're really seeing that at Georgia Southern too, where it's like our food pantry also offers these products, but they're also completely donation based. And then we also like, before I did my project, we would have like some buildings where I think it was the literature and humanities building, they would have products that they would put out in baskets, but that's something that was like run by the department. I don't think it was technically cleared with facilities in the department or anything like that. But it just seems like all of this is like students and even the faculty and staff population, like something they want. And so they're the ones bringing it in. So it's kind of like a bottom up approach instead of like a top down, like where the university would be providing things, which is kind of interesting to me because we talked about like two different universities now, and it seems about kind of the same thing. Anyone else want to add to that, or are we going to move on to the next question? All right, let's move on. Have you done any advocacy in this area of your campus? And please tell us what you did. I'd love to learn more. I think I'll start off then. So at Georgia Southern, at least, I started back in my freshman year, kind of, and then mostly into my sophomore year. I started working specifically on trying to get products into our restrooms across campus because I heard from my sister that Augusta University was doing that. So I was like, why couldn't we? And that turned into just like a long project of where do we get funding and, you know, the usual questions like that. And so what is unique about Georgia Southern is that we have a mandatory student fee that's called sustainability fee. It's a $10 fee that students pay every semester. And the fees are supposed to go towards grant projects that students or faculty and staff can request funding for to make the campus more environmentally friendly. So I applied to that grant and I received, I want to say about $48,000 for that to purchase reusable period products. So that were like menstrual cups and fabric pads. And so we were able to purchase those and create what were called green period pantries across the Statesboro campus. So that's one of our 3 campuses. And we have about 7 locations right now. We just give out free menstrual cups, reusable pads, all of those. We also give out period underwear right now because we got a grant from an outside organization for that as well. So that is one of our projects. We also have disposable products in our restrooms that was funded through different internal grants as well. And so it's been going really well. We've been calling it the period equity movement. We try to do education programs as well. We're very much concerned with like making sure it's an inclusive kind of movement. So we are very careful about, you know, what kind of gender pronouns we use or what specific colors we use. So we're trying to be very much as inclusive as possible in going on about this. And so far it's been going really great. Students have been very receptive to it, which has been wonderful. So yeah, that's just one of the ways I did it. But I know Madison and Savita also have done a lot of work on their campuses, and I'm very much like to hear about that.
Sure. Madison, you can jump in whenever. I think we had Period Project, which focuses on period poverty in our community, surrounding community of Alvin Clark County. We pivoted to our campus focuses, I think May of 2020. And I think we first tried approaching our SGA. One of our founding members was a member of SGA, our student government, and kind of explored like internal funds through that first. Didn't really offer a lot of options. So we got our start by partnering with Aunt Flo, who granted us our first couple of dispensers and products to stock them. And from there, it was a process of figuring out like, okay, well, how do we approach buildings on campus to like have our dispensers put in there? And how do we then convince them that we can maintain this and sustain the program and all of these things? For a while, it was jumping around, like figuring out who is the person you email about this or talk to. And eventually we got connected. This is like way down the line. We got connected with the facilities management division, which is like the entity that stocks bathrooms and offices with all the supplies they need. And we have like really strong champions of our progress in there that really just took our program and helped us find other funding. From there, we got kind of similar to Georgia Southern's, I guess, sustainability fee. We have an Office of Sustainability that hosts a grant program, and we applied to that and were granted some funding there to grow the number of dispensers and products we had. And I can let Madison speak on our current efforts because she is on the board currently, and I am graduated and just around.
Yeah, so since we only have like our own limited amount of dispensers that we got from the grant, we've had like colleges like the College of Engineering and also the Geography department, and we're also like kind of trying to work with the business school too, that they have the funds to buy their own dispensers and then just like either stock it themselves or we can like stock like one dispenser like in their building. And so just partnering with other colleges on campus who also want to see this initiative happen. And then, I mean, the long-term goal is to present this to the administration and then they absorb that into their budget. But I do also want to mention that Period Project, the like student organization, we have our own like in-house meetings like a few times a month, and we do have educational events in that, but we also have done educational events with like the Panhellenic like society or like other organizations that just want to know more about period poverty or sustainable products or intersectionality and how that affects period poverty. And so we've had a lot of different student groups that have been interested in our educational workshops. And so people are definitely interested, which is always a good sign.
So the products you currently have, where do they come from now? Are they donation based?
So for Project Red, like it's Ant Flow. And so all of the products come from Ant Flow that provides the dispensers and the products. And then Period Project has their own like service initiative in the Athens community, and all of those are donation based. And some of them are purchased with donation money. So.
Okay, cool. So I'm seeing something in the chat. I'm part of an organization that's been trying to put together a sustainable period product drive, but one of the issues we've been running into with that has been period underwear menstrual cups are difficult to contend with in dorm rooms and communal bathrooms. Would anybody have any ideas, perspectives on dealing with that issue? Okay, so that's a really good question. And you know, that kind of just depends on the product itself. So for example, a menstrual cup is actually pretty easy to contend with in a communal bathroom, for example, because it is simply a cup that you can like go into a bathroom stall, take it out, you can like pour out the liquid, and you can buy these wipes specifically to just clean it out before you reinsert it if you want to do it very discreetly. I know some women who would, you know, they would just rinse it out in the sinks in the restroom as well. So it very much depends just on your level of comfortability with it. I just read something today as well about like the reusable pads or like the period underwear. And they suggested simply, if you're in like a public restroom, to bring like a Ziploc bag or something that you could put your underwear in, and then just like keep an extra pair of underwear with you to just put on. But that's a really good question. And it very much depends on the community you're dealing with, because it is a stigmatized topic. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Do we have any other input on that? And that kind of leads us into our next question, which is like, what are the hurdles that you foresee in improving access to period products on your campus, or hurdles that you face? So like for me, for example, the biggest one was funding. And because the moment you bring this up to any kind of administrator, they're like, how are you going to fund this? Because all of our funding is so specifically worked out. So if you don't know, university funding is always worked out like a year in ahead, their fiscal planning. So if you come to them like April and you want money for the fall, it's kind of difficult to get it because they very specifically plan it out. Another one was just simply where to start, like whom to speak to, because the whole structure of the university, if you're a student, you haven't spent much time there yet. I didn't really get, you know, the way department heads work, and then offices and the divisions and things like that. So I had to figure that out pretty much. And it's like, I have no idea whom to speak to. So like my first year of doing period advocacy things, I didn't work with the right people actually. So I worked pretty much my own, and then with some other office. And then finally, I found the Office of Student Wellness and Health Promotion, and that's that office I've been working with mostly now for the last 2 years. So that was like a big thing for me, just like where to start. And then of course, like the big thing for me as well was just people's perceptions about it, because Georgia Southern, we are in the Deep South. So we have some pretty conservative opinions a lot of times of people who just don't think that it's a topic that needs to be talked about at all. It shouldn't be talked about. So I've had some people be pretty rude to me or upset that we're willing to talk about, or, you know, have like a tabling event where we have these products on show. It's like, you know, free products, and they will get upset about that. So those are some of the biggest things, I think. Oh, and also just the sustainability of it. So it's fantastic, you know, to start a project and to have it run, but trying to keep it permanent, I think that's probably our biggest hurdle we're facing right now. So like I said, we started out with our project being funded by grants, and unfortunately grants aren't that sustainable unless you can reapply for the grants. We try to get it to be part of the university's permanent funding, so it would come from the university, but we've been having struggles with that as well. So we try to apply for permanent funding straight from the university, but we're not able to get it because this is a USG thing as well. We're not allowed to use ENG funding. So ENG funding is money that comes from the state legislature specifically towards the schools. And that money comes also from out of your tuition and stuff. So that money is not allowed to be used for specific things. It's only, and so that's why we couldn't get funding from that. So there are other types of fees that we could get money from, so maybe like student activity fees or like sustainability fee that I was mentioning. But yeah, that's the biggest thing we're struggling with, and hopefully we'll figure it out pretty soon how to like just keep this project permanent and sustain it. So it's not just like a 2-year thing and then it goes away, which would be pretty sad for me. Anyone else?
This is like kind of a hurdle turned into like not, and I wanted to mention it just to like show that like sometimes things don't always like turn out the way you think they might. We so we've had like the Red and Black is like this student like news paper that's like throughout campus, and they post things online a lot, and a lot of times they post on Facebook and a lot of there's like a lot of alumni who graduated years ago, you know, definitely like are not well versed on period poverty, and so the Red and Black post an amazing article highlighting our work, awesome, and then we just get like hate comments from like people who just don't even go here anymore or live in Athens anymore, and just like really discouraging. But then that kind of sparked an influx of donations, and we got so much money from people being like, actually, to counteract this comment, I'm just going to send you monies to support you instead. So what sucked at first ended up working to our advantage. So
That's very interesting. And I'm glad you got more donations out of it. We had something not entirely similar, but we also have a student newspaper. And so they wanted to do a story about the period equity movement and what we do. It's just that unfortunately they keep like misrepresenting information and facts. So I think that's more of a thing about, you know, journalism and being thorough about it. But that's also just like when they report that we only have like 7 period pantry sites across like the whole university, well, that's untrue. We have them in every single restroom. So they will like report things like that just in a way kind of hurt us, but you know, not that much. They haven't said anything terrible yet. We have a question. Have you found gathering support from students to be a limitation also? At first, yes. Freshman year when I started doing this, absolutely. It was an odd topic to choose. So there are some topics, you know, that are very popular. Like currently right now we've got, you know, breast cancer awareness. You know, that's a very, I want to say popular topic almost because it's very well known, it's very big. And then when you come up with period poverty and menstrual advocacy and people don't know about it, they think it's a little weird or a little odd, it's stigmatized. So at first that was like a bit of a struggle. I would make up events and there would be like very low attendance to that. People wouldn't be interested or weirded out. Now things have really kind of changed. So since we've been doing so much in the last 2-3 years, people on Georgia Southern campus have warmed up to it, to the idea more, and they really start to like the fact that we have this period equity movement. So now when I have events, I have people who come up and say they want to get involved in some way, shape or form. And that's always wonderful for me because it just shows to me that how the campus and the people in the community is changing, just based on something that we started doing a couple of years ago. So that's always very positive for me to see. But yeah, it's definitely something you will struggle with when you start out.
I'm a little like interested like with like how like going off of that, like how you guys turned like that situation into like a supportive like one where you got like the donation stuff. Was there like anything from like your side, or was it more of like just like people reacted and like sent over like money, or like was it like there's a push from y'all?
We took screenshots of the like Facebook hate comments and we posted on our Instagram story like Venmo to, it was like a snarky little comeback, and you know, young people and their whatever, it sparked a lot of like interest and like support in that sense. But also just like we shared it on Facebook, and Facebook is where the people who have the money are at, like people like who are parents of kids that I went to school with. And so I posted like my spiel about it, and we were able to get in donations that way. So it was just like making noise about the noise that was made about us. We made a meme out of it. I don't remember what it was, but if I find it, I'll try and send it your way.
No, that's like super like great to hear. So like that's like a really great way like of using like social media and stuff. And like also like turning that around. So yeah, that's really cool.
All right, moving on. Next question is, what are some potential resources available on your campus to consider? So the ones that I've been mostly using, I think, is pretty much applicable to everyone, is STEAM students. At least you could go to them and they can point you in the right direction of where you need to go. And I will also say, don't be afraid of emailing people with important titles and important positions. Like if you want to straight up email the dean of students, they're the ones who they love seeing students wanting to be interested and invested in trying to make things better for the student community. So they can put you in contact with the right people. So the office I'm working with currently is also affiliated with Dean of Students, so that's an avenue to look at. Another one that I found was also health services, or any kind of like office on campus that looks at student health and wellness. They will also usually be very sympathetic to a cause like this and try to help in any way they can. I mentioned before that my original funding came from our sustainability office, which was kind of surprising to me at first. So that is a resource to look into as well if your university has a sustainability center or an office or a fee that they ask for that. Besides that, yeah, just honestly, professors as well. Professors will know about other people in the community as well, because universities is a network. So one person can lead you on to the next person that can assist you and help you. That's been my biggest resources, at least. Anyone else have anything else? All right, and then I think we're on to our last question. What do you think the USG, that's the University System of Georgia, can do to address period poverty in the state? My personal opinion is I think that we could benefit from some state-sponsored funding for projects like these and support. So I know that student government presidents are also very much involved in USG as well. So having support from them and recommendations would be very helpful. Any ideas? I think we also have a couple of questions in the chat.
I think that's one thing that even we're still navigating, is that USG has more barriers in place than, I guess, possible resources. Like even our student government, I guess they have a small clubs allocation fee that you can apply to an appeal to have funds for. But when we would do that, their max offering was like $50 to $100, which can maybe last like a few days when it comes to sustaining like a program like this. Something else we're like working on is the initial person we partnered with for the grant, they had offered to like help us expand the program beyond like the first grant amount. But USG has a non-compete clause, I guess, in its system, which means that no product can be like solely only ever provided by one vendor, which is what that grant provider was asking us for. So it came down to like bureaucratics and stuff. And I don't know like what the best way to go about like approaching that issue is. I think our team's still trying to figure out that too. But if anyone has any insight.
We ran into a similar issue for us as well, because our vendors actually came from Denmark and Canada, and USG did not like that. They wanted it to be US centered. So that was like another bureaucratic thing that we had to change. And also, I don't know if you know this, but like all the vendors that work with USG campuses, they have to be approved either by the state or by USG first. So that's like another step to have to take after you like approach a vendor for something like this that I did not know about, but it's not a very scary process. So there's a lot of red tape. when it comes to USG, unfortunately. We have a question in the chat about social media marketing. So if you use a page for your campaign, how did you attract followers or find ways to capitalize on period social marketing? One of the things that we do is we don't have our own page for like Instagram or Facebook. We work off of our different established departments and offices. They have their own social medias. So they will like post things that we send them. All the other campus departments will do the same thing. So we're still spreading our information out there because we're not an organization technically at all. So it's kind of difficult to say what our standing is. So we work through different other offices and their social media capabilities to do those kinds of things.
We have like our general body engaged with our social media through fundraising. And so we held like social media fundraisers. And so people who may have never heard of us before, but are like, oh, this is a good issue. Like, yeah, I would really like to be involved. They can just donate and then they're sent to our page as well. And then our exec and a lot of committed general body members will post things that we post. We post like all of our meetings. Anytime there's like we had like Indigenous Peoples Day and then like Hispanic Heritage Month, so we made a post about that, highlighting the like experiences of menstruators in those communities. And so we just try to like make a lot of really relevant posts and then have our exec members and like any devoted general body members who are looking to be on exec the next year post them too. And also with Project Red, we had our initial surveys. A lot of that was spread through social media, through the people like on the Project Red team. And so it just kind of like connected through all the people that were posting and involved.
Yeah, and I would also add like for social media, like I used to work with like Period Atlanta, which was like mostly like a donations like based organization, but it was like under the umbrella of like Period like National, which was like this like community like like organizing and donations like throughout the country. They have like chapters. And so when we did like local like things like donating like products at like the community like health fairs and stuff, like the national organization, which has like a much larger following than our community-based one, like they reposted our things, and so we gained some like followers and like attention like from that. And so I think like don't be like afraid to reach out like to other organizations, like even if it's not like an umbrella like organization, if there's other like menstrual advocacy based groups like doing similar work, or like even like I'm not sure, but like if you reached out to like the companies that provide like menstrual products and ask them to like feature like some of the work that you're doing, like I feel like if they're open to providing products, I feel like they might be open to like promoting that as well on their social media. So I feel like that might be a good way to like attract attention.
All right, thank you. So we have a question in the chat. Hello, I appreciate all your efforts in championing menstrual health hygiene management at campuses. This is a human right and also dignity for every feminist. How possible is it for you to extend this to Africa, Uganda in particular? I mean, partnership with Ugandan indigenous NGOs to champion menstrual hygiene management in Ugandan campuses. So that is an excellent question that I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not very knowledgeable at all. So I would particularly suggest for something like this to work with a United Nations organization, for example, and that could be something like the UNDP, their development program. UNICEF, I know, does already do a lot for this because it's very much a children's matter as well, as girls reach adolescence and go through this process of menstruation. UN Women would be good as well, because I know they are active in Uganda, but I'm afraid I'm not an expert at all, unfortunately, on this specific topic. So, but I do wish you the very best with your efforts there. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's very different in African countries. So I'm from South Africa, and so we have a completely different way of going about this. In South Africa, periods are even more stigmatized than they are here. And so recently, South African government took a step where they made all the menstrual products tax-free. So that is a governmental initiative, and I'm going to bet Uganda, probably the government itself also has initiatives like that. So those are also great resources to look at. So looking at your government's public health website, and what they offer there. But that brings us, that was our last question actually. So that brings us to the conclusion of our roundtable discussion. I really just want to thank everyone very much for your participation tonight. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about how things are done on different campuses regarding this issue. And I really hope that you learned something as well, and that we can improve upon these things at our own campuses. Maybe USG will, the USG University of North Georgia will have campuses that are very progressive in terms of menstrual advocacy. So unless there's anything else, have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.